and let them watch the troops train, they meet all the brass. When they come back from those, don't worry about it. They'll always support the defense budget, because that's exciting stuff. How many of those do you suppose we've coerced since 1947? Huge numbers. And that's how we do it. It's not the veterans. You know, the veterans don't even speak up for the defense budget. All they care about is the VA budget. Quite rightly. They've done their time. So, you know, just envision us now really engaging. And look, I don't mean we're going to manipulate or co-opt these people. If our ideas aren't good, they'll tell us to stick it in our ear. But I think our ideas are good. I think our record is superlative. And all of them want to at least get back the money they put in. So what they want to know is, what do we, as an organization that has to administer the program, never mind the politics, but as an organization that has to administer the program that really, I believe, cares about the beneficiaries, what do we think would best serve them now and over time? And if we had that kind of a network, just talking on that very rational basis, then we won't have any problems. And that's the goal, is to build up a network like that. In other words, you could look at this as democratizing the decision-making process. Let's take it away from just elected officials. Let's make sure that the constituencies of these elected officials have the capability to encourage their elected officials to act in ways that they feel are best. Isn't that how our system is supposed to work? And remember, that's what public relations and public affairs is. It's what makes democracy possible. I mean, how could the people ever know, if it wasn't for you and me, what's really going on inside corporations and agencies and hospitals and, you know, schools and universities? What we do is to empower people. We are now what Jefferson thought the media should be. We are the ones that get the information out so people can make decisions and be self-governing. And even the media has to admit that. I don't know if you're aware of it or not, the latest studies show 91% of everything that appears in the media comes to them from public relations people. So, I mean, if you look at it that way, everything we're talking about, there's nothing subversive about this. We're trying to let the American people participate in this great debate about their future retirement payments. I think it's a great idea. So I have a great lunch. So we'll talk about let's talk about opinion leaders. Who are they? How do you identify them? How do you sort them out from these large stakeholder groups, and how can you work with them so that they can become third-party advocates that have a relationship with you and Social Security, and they give you helpful behaviors? And what are behaviors? What are the behaviors, the desired behaviors that we're talking about? Now look, I realize this is the toughest time of the day here. We had a big lunch, and it's been a long day, and you're tired of hearing one voice. It's hard to hear one voice all day. But I just wanted to remind you that, you know, I'm a behaviorist, and we have a lot of research about how to keep audience attention. Let me just share a little of this with you. You may find it useful also back home when you're working with audiences. The classic study was done at the San Diego State University by a graduate student, and the test mode that they used was the typical 30-minute speech. And here's what they found. They found that in the first 10 minutes, no matter how lousy the speaker, no matter how unruly the audience, people really do pay attention to that first time span. But for the second 10 minutes, they found that no matter how riveting and interesting the speaker, and no matter how polite the audience, that they still kind of, you know, wander in and out. You listen for a while and you think, oh God, don't forget to bring home milk, you know. And geez, I wonder who called back to the office, and then other things come across our minds. Then they found that in the final 10 minutes, everybody was into sexual fantasizing. Now the reason I shared this, remember I am a behaviorist. So the reason that I shared this research with you is I just want you to remember that if you should sort of be nodding off, everybody else is going to know what you were up to. Opinion leaders. The funny thing is, that is a story, but you know what? The reason I know that, a graduate student actually turned in a study on this at San Diego State, for which I have a copy. It's a marvelous piece of work. And the professor, fortunately, had a sense of humor. He actually gave the student an A. Oh, just how to show. Let's talk about influentials. We talked about diffusion process and how decisions get made and how ideas get diffused, therefore, across groups after early adopters come to some decisions about what's important and what ought to be discussed, and how opinion leaders pull the network back together again and decide on opinions and attitudes and behaviors toward those subjects. But essentially there are 5 types of influentials. And you really ought to just know this. This is a little more academic maybe than necessary, but I just want you to know this just so you'll have a sense of it. The most powerful influentials are role models. Now we all know that. We know that inside our organizations. People who are doing it, who are living the vision and championing the good causes and mentoring and helping others, they're tops. But this is also true outside. So that if we've got some third-party influentials who are working with us, the fact that their behaviors are what they are becomes symbols to other people, and they are likely, therefore, to emulate the role model. So we're always looking, whoever our third-party advocates are or whom we want to be, we're always hoping to elevate them to the status of role model. Now, we need then next, however, to make a differentiation between 2 other types of individuals. First of all, there are power leaders, and then there are opinion leaders. And we need to be very careful that we know the difference. A power leader is someone who has official power. I won't take the time today to go into all of the research on power. You may have seen some of that. There are 8 types of power. There's situational power, there's knowledge power, there's personality power. You've probably seen those studies over time. Role models have a situational power. In other words, I am the congressman. You may hate my guts. I'm not a role model. I'm not even an opinion leader. But you got to deal with me, maybe, because I have the power. So I am a power leader. And a certain number of sycophants, at least, tend to follow power leaders. Now, a lot of other people may follow them too, but at least they usually have their little core of folks who follow them. But you need to differentiate clearly between power leaders and opinion leaders. Opinion leaders are the people who put the power leaders in position, or who keep them in position. I mean, the opinion leaders out across the electorate are the people who get you to vote for the power leader who gets elected. And the power leader owes his or her position, in that case, directly to those opinion leaders. But even in an organizational situation, any intelligent manager who has had any training knows that he or she really isn't the boss. They are the power leader. But there is a group called the shadow management, which is the opinion leaders in the group, and they either say, yeah, what the power leader is saying is a good idea, and then everybody goes along, or when you're all sitting around at the team meeting and the power leader says, this is what we're going to do. People don't even look at the power leader, they look at the opinion leaders, and they're all kind of going, it ain't going to happen. And so, intelligent managers know that the first thing you do is you find out who are those opinion leaders at shadow management, and you get them off on your side. You make them your cabinet, your unofficial folks. Well, that's another example of power leaders versus opinion leaders. You may want to place a speaker at the Rotary Club, and you may have to go to the power leader, who is this year's president of the Rotary Club, or this year's program chair, or whatever. But you know that when the Rotary Club is sitting around making the decisions, those people aren't necessarily the opinion leaders. They're probably 5 or 6 long-time members sitting over here. Before anybody makes any really serious decisions, they all kind of look over there and see whether they're smiling or kind of frowning. Well, that's the difference. Now, we often have to deal with them. But the people we really need to get to are them, because they ultimately set the agenda, and they either keep these people in power, knock them out of power, support what they're doing, don't support what they're doing. So clearly, these are very important. Now, if opinion leaders can become role models, well, obviously, that's really super. There are 2 other types of influentials that you need to know about, because they can be very helpful on occasion, depending on what your objective is. First of all, there are cheerleaders. And you know, we all, one of the things with being a manager or being a public affairs person is that sometimes you are called on to be the cheerleader. But you never want to forget. Now, that doesn't mean you're an opinion leader. Doesn't mean people believe you, they trust you, that you're the one they're going to follow. But remember the role of the cheerleader, because going back to this whole business of us as a society that tends to work in teams, in groups, as a social animals, the cheerleaders are those people that when clearly everything is going right down the tubes, the game is lost, they are still out there waving the pom-poms, saying, we can do it, we can pull it off. And you know, your rational mind says, this is idiocy. You know, it's all over. And yet, by golly, we win. We pull it off. How do we do that? Well, I don't know. It's endorphins, it's pheromones, it's something. But just this sheer business keeps us going. Now, what they're really touching is, of course, our internal desire to win. But we get kind of frustrated or we lose heart ourselves. But somebody else is saying, hey, we can do it. And then, you know, they get so irritated because when everything is great, they're still saying, well, it could be better. You know, in other words, onward and upward. And so you don't really trust them as opinion leaders because, you know, you're nuts. But the fact is, it has an incredible subconscious psychological effect on us, and we need those. Organizations need those. The anthropologists will tell you that there has never, in their research, been a successful tribe, nation, state, organization that did not have right at its core someone that we today would call a cheerleader. It may have been the shaman in a tribe. It may actually have been the chief. That may have been the reason they got to be the chief, because they knew how to rally the troops. But we need that. And so you need to look for those. You need to look for those outside as well as inside. And then finally, there's a funny, by funny I mean odd, other type of influential, and those are celebrities. And I don't mean just Jane Fonda and Robert Redford and all those people. Obviously they have their role from time to time. Although increasingly people like that, have you all seen the Milk Mustache campaign? Oh, yeah. Well, you know, that was a client of ours, the milk distributors in the country, and we had a big conference of all the people in the country, and I'm telling them, look, you got to get out and get to the opinion leaders. But you know, the ad people, see, they want all this money. They want to run all these ads. And a certain number of the people in the leadership think, oh, it's ads. Ads will do it. So they take our idea of opinion leaders, and they run all these people with a milk mustache. It's a clever idea. You know what has happened to milk sales after they spent all that dough? They're down 3%. Well, I mean, you know, it was interesting to look at, but did it make you want to drink milk? In fact, it made you kind of want to, usually when people watch it, this was their reaction. That's the psychological reaction to watching those ads, according to research. So, you got to be careful how you think about celebrities, opinion leaders. Now,